It's been too long, let's be honest, but that's what happens when lockouts happen. And now we are entering the end of May, right around that de facto quarter post point of the Major League Baseball season. One of our favorites, the MLB insider from the worldwide leader in sports, Jeff Passan. How you been, Jeff?
It's what happens when you have lockouts, and it's what happens when Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher have the most awesome fight in sports.
That is true. There was a little bit of a food fight in the SEC yesterday.
Pulling the curtain back. I was supposed to come on yesterday, but then that happened, and Rich called me up and said, "Hey, Jeff, you got to understand what's going on." And I was like, you know what? I completely understand because it was utterly ridiculous and utterly predictable and utterly wonderful. As much as we love sports for the games, aren't we just ultimately, Rich, a bunch of people who use that as our soap operas and absolutely lap it up and just enjoy it so much? I know I loved it.
Best reality TV. It's just like, it was like I guess you can't spell Succession without SEC. That's basically like what it was. You know, when you think about it.
The Real Housewives of Tuscaloosa.
I appreciate your patience and now being available on this program to talk about the sport that we both love so dearly. What is the story right now, would you say, overarching story about this baseball season to date, Jeff Passan?
Well, as someone who works at a company that has occasionally been accused of coastal bias, I feel like saying New York and L.A. is kind of trite, but I live in Kansas City, Rich, so I can actually say it without being accused of having coastal bias. I am a Midwesterner born, bred, and true, and to me the story of the baseball season is how good the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, and the Angels are, and whether we're setting ourselves up for some kind of a coastal World Series or if the Houston Astros or Milwaukee Brewers or somebody else can interrupt that dream. The Yankees have been the best team in baseball this year. Hasn't really been close, frankly. And they've done it because they've been healthy, because they remade the left side of their infield and catching, and because they have extremely deep pitching. And I think the job Aaron Boone, who's been so maligned, has done is phenomenal. At the same time, Buck Showalter's really helped turn around the Mets, though. Without Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer for upward of 2 months now, we're going to see what they're really made of. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. They're great. They were always going to be great. It's just a matter of, are they going to come through in October? Because they will be there. But the Angels are the most surprising team, I think, which is odd to think because they have the two best players in the world in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. So, yeah, they should be good. But Major League Baseball is not the NBA where two superstars will get you to the conference finals. It's not the NFL where, you need one quarterback and that'll get you into the playoffs. No, it's a sport where even with two great players, you can still be a middling, mediocre team if you don't have other elements. And the elements that the Angels have added are pitching and defense. And both of those have held up through about a quarter of the season. The question at this point is, will it hold up over the last three quarters?
And, Aaron Judge, the Yankees are also lucky to have him. And by that, I mean not just about how good he is, but I'm from New York City. I've seen many, many talented players in a Yankee uniform wilt under the pressure of either being paid or, in his case, not being or being ready to be handsomely enriched, and him saying, no, it's not enough. And those guys usually get chewed up and spat out, and he is the best he's ever been. And I'm wondering where you think that's headed, Jeff Passan, with Judge.
If Aaron Judge stays healthy, Rich, that's headed for a contract that starts with a 3. And remember, Aaron Judge turned down an extension this offseason of about $230 million that would have included this year. Would have been 8 years, including this year, for about $230. So a 7-year extension on top of this season. With what he's doing right now, the question is going to be just how high it goes if he can, again, stay healthy for the entire season. Because when he's out there, this has always been the case, Rich. When Aaron Judge is on the field, he's productive. he's good. Doesn't matter that he's a little older. Doesn't matter that the end of whatever contract he signs is probably not going to look particularly good. This is baseball, and the teams like the Yankees and theoretically like the Mets or the Giants or the Cubs who have money and want to go out and win are going to look at Aaron Judge's next 4 to 5 years and say, as you get into your mid-30s, this is what we're paying you for. And essentially we're going to have more years on the back end of the contract so we can get you for the first few years. But, I spoke with someone with the Yankees earlier this year during the Judge stuff, and he essentially said, you know what? He has to go out there and illustrate that he's worth what he thinks he is. And if he does, then I understand. We took a risk. We didn't go high enough, and we will look into paying him more. And the way it's going right now, Rich, Aaron Judge has been the best hitter in baseball this season, and we see what happens when he's out there and when Giancarlo Stanton is out there and healthy. The Yankees are formidable and have an offense that's borderline devastating.
Well, is it guaranteed that Judge would accept that contract with a 3 from the Yankees? Or is there some sort of, to again, mix sports, some sort of Devontae Adams homecoming, like that he'd want to go back, to the Giants or or California or anything like that? Jeff?
When you perform in New York, I think this goes across all sports. When you perform in New York and are embraced by New York, it's really difficult to leave New York if New York offers you the most money or offers you somewhere in that range. So unless we have a team that's going to be excessively aggressive financially, if the Yankees are in at that price, being a Yankee for life is a thing. Like it's a thing that we last saw with Jeter and with Bernie Williams, and with Mariano Rivera and with Jorge Posada. There's cachet to that. There's just a feeling that I think those players get that are different from everyone else. When you see, and listen, this goes outside of New York too, right? When somebody spends an entire career in one uniform, it's special. In the age of free agency, it is. And if Aaron Judge were to return to the Yankees or were to sign an extension, he would more or less be guaranteeing that.
Jeff Passan from ESPN talking baseball with one of the best in the business right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Is there something up with the baseball? What the hell's going on with the baseball?
There's always something up with it. There's always something up with the baseball.
Well, what's up with this year then? What's going on?
This year, I laugh because the baseball that's happening this year in terms of it's just not flying the way that it has in recent seasons,
right,
was actually the baseball that was supposed to be implemented last year. But last year they used 2 different baseballs, and the year before they had the COVID ball, and the year before that they had the rabbit ball. Like there are always different baseballs, and maybe I laugh about it because I find the entire thing so absurd. This idea, one, that they're tinkering and tweaking with the ball every year, but 2, that there's still this insistence on keeping it handmade when you can find greater consistency in a machine manufactured product. So baseball's insistence on keeping that element of it. I appreciate that people have jobs, and I appreciate that Major League Baseball sustains certain parts of the economy in other countries. But man, as a baseball fan, the constant chatter about the ball has frankly become a defining part of the sport. And
Yeah.
generally speaking, talking about balls is not something that we need to be doing every day.
Yes, sir. But the general sense of the way, and you see the way chatter about baseball goes. I would love to have a 15, 20-minute chat and deep dive into which team has a chance to maybe come out of the pack, just like any other sport. But baseball, you can pretty much tell right now who's going to make the playoffs, who might actually be able to make that, I guess, usual magical run that comes out of the NL Central, whether it's the Cardinals or the Brewers, right, to make some sort of a run. But that's the way it goes, and you're always talking about the state of the sport.
Baseball publicly these days is about balls and brawls. Like that's the stuff that really gets people interested. And as somebody who tries to be an evangelist for the sport and for all of the good things it has, I am constantly struck at how good baseball players are right now, and that goes for athletes everywhere, right? But the fact that Ohtani is doing what he's doing, he is an athletic superhero, and it's in the moment it's kind of difficult to appreciate how great he is and how challenging what he's doing is, and to see him doing that alongside Trout, and to see all of the other players who are having these great seasons early on. I think it's been a fun year of baseball that I'm just glad we have, because we were at the precipice, Rich, of something really dark in the sport. And so the fact that we're almost a quarter of the way into this season and we know there's going to be baseball for the next 5 years, it's something I do not take for granted.
Well, and part of that new collective bargaining agreement was, I guess, the formation of a competition committee of some sort. And the only reason why I ask about that is I can't wait for the shift to be totally dismantled. I'm sick, and now I'm seeing 4 outfielders sometimes, and it's absurd. It's absurd. And again, like Joey Gallo is the perfect example. Yeah. Okay, he is the perfect example. He is a guy who the Yankees traded, prospects for in the middle of the year last year.
Good prospect.
And the guy isn't even close to the Mendoza line. He strikes out, he walks, or he homers. That's about it. Like if he singles that's the unicorn.
It's really funny to hear Yankees fans talk about Joey Gallo, and it's one of those reputations that players get. I don't know what at this point he could do. Like he's got to hit a big playoff homer or something to get back.
No, but Jeff, he's the personification of what I think is happening to this sport, where everybody throws 100 miles an hour. Yep. And everybody strikes out. So what are we doing?
He's the king of the 3 true outcomes: home runs, walks, and strikes.
Correct.
And
every team's got one. That's what I'm saying.
No, every team's got 5 of them.
Right.
And baseball turning into that sport. I think that there are going to be elements that are both natural and enforced that right that. And one thing I'm super interested to see come into play, and it's not guaranteed yet, but is the pitch clock. Because baseball's criticisms, particularly among the younger generation, are it's slow, it's too long. There's a pitch clock in the minor leagues this year, Rich. It's 14 seconds when there's nobody on base, and 18 or 19 depending on the level when someone is on base. The average game time in the minor leagues is down 25 minutes this year, while scoring and hitting are about stagnant and equal, and stolen bases are higher because they've limited the number of pickoff moves before a pitcher is called for a balk. So guys are running a lot more. Getting action back into the game, getting pace back into the game, and knowing that you're not going to be going to the ballpark for a 3.5-hour nightmare that's going to get you home so far past your kid's bedtime it makes you not want to go. That's a good thing. And as much as I understand the people who say baseball is a game played without a clock, and as alluring as that is to longtime baseball fans, to me, the benefits there are enormous. And the reality is adapt or die. Like, that is what we do as human beings, and that's what baseball needs to do as a sport.
That's why I think they should change the defensive rules, just like the NFL did. The 5-yard chuck rule, and they changed the defensive rules. They changed them, and there's like, well, there's too much that benefits the offense. Well, there's not enough that benefits the offense in baseball right now. Not even close to it. Because the pitchers
not the ball anymore, at least.
Not the ball, not the arms, the pitchers. And then, before I let you go, Jeff, you're not aware because we're on the phone, but I have been holding your hand and staring at you this entire time. And that's
into my eyes.
That's the Bellino in me. And what came of that? And what can baseball do? I mean, about something like that? That was absurd. That was beyond absurd. And he skated. He basically said nothing after the game, and then 2 days later put out a statement talking about how he should umpire like his kids are in the stands, and he apologized. But still nothing about why he did that at all.
Yeah.
So
I can give you some context for why it's not right, but Madison Bumgarner had been chirping at the umpire who was behind the plate that night. And Dan Bellino is somebody who likes to stand up for the integrity of umpires because they are, quite frankly, under attack all the time, like they are. Now, that's part of the job, part of the hazard of the job, and they are very nicely compensated and have great lives and jobs because of it. But Madison Bumgarner has a reputation as somebody who speaks back to umpires, and Bellino took it too far, and it was wrong, and I think he was reprimanded for it. But this constant thing between players and umpires, I was looking that day, Rich, at the first instances of umpires being razzed by fans, and the history of umpires is interesting. At first, they were looked at as, oh my God, it's wonderful to have them around. They're such paragons of virtue and great character. Within 5 years, umpires were hated, and this was back in the 1870s. So we've been hating on umpires for 150 years now, and nothing has changed. You want to talk about part of the game? Despising umpires is part of baseball that pretty much everyone can agree upon, and it keeps the world turning, Rich Eisen. And you know what? If you want to stare into my eyes and hold my hand, you can do it anytime you'd like. I hope Susie doesn't get mad, though.
Very well. I appreciate that, Jeff. No, she understands. That sounded like that scene in Forrest Gump where we looked back generations of Lieutenant Dan's family members, right? Yep. One after another who passed away in war. And I feel that way, that now it's just like Joe West's great-great-grandfather was hated on by old Ross Hadburn's kid, like it's makes me feel bad for even bringing it up.
Did you really just throw an old Hoss reference
I
out
did.
there?
I did.
I think you called him old Ross.
I did. I don't call him old Ross Hadburn is what I called him, which is the exact wrong thing.
Spoonerism. I'll take it any day.
Thank you. Take care of yourself, Jeff Passan. Greatly appreciate it.
See you, Rich. Have a good one.
The great Jeff Passan, at Jeff Passan on Twitter. I follow him. You should as well, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.